Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Alex Reynolds and I am your professor for Introduction to Psychology. This is just a video to welcome you to the course. This is an online course. I like to do some sort of face-to-face online things just to kind of get us to know each other. So what I'm going to do in this video is explain a bit about the course. This is something typical I would do on the first day of class, where I explain about the syllabus and expectations of the course. I really hope this is the first thing that you really look at when it comes to the course, so that way you know what to expect as you move through the course. Now, just a little bit about myself. I'm an experimental psychologist, and I have done a lot of different kinds of research in different areas, but my main area of expertise is sleep. You might actually see some sleep studies around campus, and that's probably my stuff. So if you're ever interested in that kind of area of work, I am more than happy to talk to you guys about that. We're always looking for really good, motivated students to work in the labs. So if that's something that interests you, that's definitely something that we can kind of talk about. I am available on campus, and I'll talk about this here in just a minute, but I am on campus, and if you are here and would like to meet, we can certainly do so to meet, whether it's to do something with class or, just talking about research and talking about psychology in general. I'm here for any of that. Just something that's really important to start off is that I use our learning management system, Moodle, very heavily. This is an online class. I need to get material to you, and I need you to get stuff to me, and I use Moodle to do that. I also have a YouTube page where I have videos that I cover for this class as well as other classes. And I give you that link in the syllabus so that you guys can take a look at that. I also post videos on Moodle. If you've never used Moodle before, if you're a freshman, or if you have never had a class that's used Moodle, you can go to the main my.uvawise.edu page. And then if you look on there, you can actually find the Moodle link and then click into that. And the username and password is the same username and password that you would use for your email. And you should see the class up and ready to go. So whatever professors use Moodle, you'll see those classes listed. One thing that you're going to see that's really, really important to this class is the syllabus. This is sort of our contract. This is what my expectations are for you, and your expectations will be for me. On there are all the guidelines and the important due dates and everything that you need to know for this course. So what you need to do is, one of the absolute first things after watching this video is to look at the syllabus and read it completely. A lot of students will just kind of overlook the syllabus and not really pay much attention to it, but honestly, it's one of the most important documents in your class. It's going to be what's going to tell you everything that you need to know about the class. So make sure you read it really carefully, and make sure you read it before you ask a question about the class, because chances are your question is answered on the syllabus. So make sure you read through it, and if you have questions beyond the syllabus, I'm happy to answer them. But if you have something like, what chapters are going to be on the test, or how much is this assignment worth, or when is XYZ due, chances are that information is going to be on the syllabus. So make sure you read it really carefully. I do have a syllabus quiz, which I'll get to in just a minute. But that is something that you're going to need to read within the first week of class. One question I get asked a lot is, do I ask you to purchase a textbook? Now, I have assigned the Hockenberry textbook, and I typically suggest it for a face-to-face class. So if you are in a typical class with me, where we're in a classroom and I'm lecturing every day, you have access to me on, either, 2 times a week or 3 times a week face-to-face in my office, I would say, you can definitely survive the class without the book. If you really, really like psychology and want to learn more and want to read as we go, then definitely get the book. For an online class, almost every online class I teach, I highly, highly suggest that you purchase the book. This is because we move through the material very quickly, probably more quickly than we would typically do in a face-to-face class. So I would suggest that you not only purchase the book, but actually read it. So on the chapters that we are on, read the material as we go along. I don't have videos for every single chapter and every single piece of material for this class. I try my best to cover as much as I can and to have videos where the material gets especially harder. But the fact of the matter is that I can't, cover every tiny little thing, even in a multitude of videos. So the best thing that you can do is use the slides, use the videos that are on there, use the material, and read the chapters as we go. Because we move through the chapters quickly, and because I'm not here to answer your questions instantaneously, like in a class setting, I would suggest to get the Hockenberry text and go ahead and read it. If you know you're never going to read the book, then don't waste your money. But I would suggest not only purchasing the book, but also keeping with the material. Another thing is that it's completely fine if you purchase an earlier edition. So if the edition that I have on there, the edition that's ordered through the bookstore, is really expensive, and you can find one that's cheaper because it's an edition, before the one that I suggested, that's fine. The only caveat is if it might possibly not line up with the chapters, or if you might find that it's not as updated. But generally speaking, the books aren't very different from each other, and purchasing an earlier edition is absolutely fine. Now, one important thing that you need to know about this particular semester that's very different than what my typical semesters are is that I'm actually going on maternity leave at the end of the semester. So if you look on the syllabus, you're going to notice that we actually end the semester a little bit earlier than the last week of class. And that is because I want to ensure that I'm here to be able to grade your work and get it to you back on time, and to have your grades calculated before my deadline. Now, if something were to happen and I, for health reasons, had to go out, chances are it probably wouldn't affect you in any way, because this is an online class and I can still manage it without having to be on campus. But let's just say it did impact, and I couldn't still be the professor of the course. We do have, people in line who would be able to take over the course. And of course, since everything is available on Moodle, everything's already set, then all of that information will stay and it shouldn't impact you much at all. Because everything's already set up. And if you go on Moodle, you notice that everything's on there. Not everything is shown. There are a couple of hidden things, but everything's available and already set up on Moodle. So that shouldn't affect you at all, regardless if I'm here teaching the class or not. So I am available throughout the semester, except when I do go on maternity leave. And at that point, you would probably have to meet with another professor, but I would have that information to you. Up until that point, I have my office hours listed on the syllabus, both my in-office hours and something I call virtual office hours. The virtual office hours means that I'm available to email you during that time. You can expect a pretty quick response. However, I'm usually in my office at those times. It's not guaranteed that I'm physically here, but chances are if you're on campus and swing by, I'm probably here. My best advice is, if you need to meet, whether it's during my regular office hours or virtual office hours, is to send me a message ahead of time. Let's go ahead and schedule it, even if it's the day before. I only need a little bit of notice to make sure that I'm going to be here and I'm going to be available to talk with you. So take advantage of my office hours. If I need to meet virtually, let's say I am not on campus, and even outside of my office hours, I can work around things and meet with you. Let's just say I'm not on campus. I can meet with you virtually. I use a cloud meeting system called Zoom. You don't need to download anything. I can just send you a meeting ID and we can do this face-to-face meeting. I also do live lectures. Whenever I get the chance, I like to set up lectures where I'm live streaming what I'm saying, and you can get on the meeting and you can chat live with me, ask me questions during a lecture. You can also come onto your webcam and actually engage with me there. If I were to do live lectures, which according to the schedule, I don't have any set planned yet, but I would like to keep the option open. If I do any live lectures, you're not going to be required at any point to view them live. I know that many people work, many people have, weird hours. You may be doing all of your schoolwork at midnight. I don't know. And I don't think it's fair to say it's mandatory that you absolutely have to, tune in at a certain day and time, especially when it's an online course and you don't have a set day and time for the class. So whatever I do live, I will also record. And so that recording will be available to you on Moodle as well as my YouTube page. So if I, let's say, have a live lecture on a Tuesday, usually I can get that finished recording and loaded by Tuesday or Wednesday, and you can view that at any time that's convenient for you. So if you see that I'm doing a live lecture, I'll let you guys know ahead of time what I've planned. Just know that if you can't make it, it's not a huge deal. It's not mandatory for you to view it live. The only advantage to viewing it live, if you can, is that you can engage and ask questions, and it feels more like a face-to-face class. Now, I do use Moodle and email very regularly. You'll notice that over the course of the next few days, everything's going to be loaded on Moodle for the entire semester. Excuse me, I think I have up to at least chapter 4 at this point, but I just need to kind of switch some things around and make sure everything lines up. But you're going to see that everything's going to be on Moodle. So you really need to check it daily. You need to check your email daily. You need to check Moodle daily to make sure that you are up to date on all of the things that you need to know. And if there's ever any announcements or changes in anything, you need to be up to speed on that. So I only email through the UVA-wise email. So that's the only email I will communicate to you with. And I will put announcements on Moodle for anything that might be a change, or if, let's say, I go ahead and say, hey, you know what, there's an extra credit opportunity. I might email you. I might put it on Moodle. I like extra credit. I like giving options for extra credit. So keep a lookout on that. It might be random. I might give it to you plenty in advance. It just depends, because it's extra credit can kind of vary. One thing to keep in mind is that Moodle tends to go down for maintenance on certain days. For example, Sunday nights, for some reason, I think because the company believes that nobody's on Moodle during that time. But one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the quizzes and the assignments are due on Sunday. So I would suggest to not wait to the last minute to do an assignment or do a quiz, because if you log into Moodle and it's down for maintenance, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing they can do. So if if a quiz is due on a Sunday and you go in at 10 p.m. to do it and it's down, you're kind of out of luck. So you have to kind of keep in mind to make sure that you do your assignments and you do everything ahead of schedule. I highly suggest that you work ahead. So that way that you are not scrambling and you're not feeling the stress and pressure. Probably the absolute best advice I can give you is to use your cell phone or your iPad or whatever planning system or any kind of reminder system that you might have. Anything that has a clock, put the reminders in your phone to signal to you to do something. So for example, you have a schedule and due dates for every quiz, every assignment, everything for this class. You can sit down and spend 10, 15 minutes putting in your phone for it to, ping you 2 days ahead of time, 1 day ahead of time. Hey, this is due. You need to do this. Don't set the reminder to like the day and time it's due, or it's not enough time to actually be a reminder. It's like, uh-oh, I haven't done this. So set it so that it's going to remind you. Put those reminders in your phone so that it can, so you can keep up with it. This is a fast-paced course. It is a self-paced course because you have to make sure that you're working on those deadlines ahead of time. The quizzes work in a sense that they're timed. So there's going to be 8 quizzes over 8 chapters. And so each quiz is timed and multiple choice. I don't suggest that you do them on your phone because the Moodle platform doesn't work very well with cell phones, and so it could time out. I've had a lot of students who have used it on their phone, and things have happened like their phone the Wi-Fi shuts off, or they're working on a quiz and it drops them or something like that. And then what ends up happening is that you can't get back in it, because whatever grade you have is then recorded and you can only try the quiz once. The quizzes work pretty well on iPads, but there have been instances where if it's a picture on the quiz where you need to look at a picture, sometimes it doesn't load properly. If you can at all, use a computer, use a laptop or desktop to do your quizzes and assignments if you can. If you can't, the iPad is definitely the best alternative, but I would suggest that you use a computer if possible. The quizzes are timed. We have computer labs on campus. If you're on campus, we have computer labs in classroom settings as well as in the Smitty building. One thing to keep in mind about the quizzes, and a lot of people have test anxiety and they say, oh, doing a quiz freaks me out, especially when they're timed. I give you plenty of time to do the quiz if you know the material. I don't suggest, running into the quiz without knowing the material, without having studied. There is time to look stuff up, but it's not enough time to look everything up. So my best advice to you is to go into the quizzes with knowing the majority of the material and try to answer everything you can first that you're confident in, and then you can look stuff up after, things that you're not quite sure about, or if you're checking your answer. If you try to check every single answer, you're not going to have enough time to finish the quiz. So make sure you manage your time wisely and you do study prior to quizzes. There is a deadline for the quiz and for all assignments, and the deadline is always 11:55 p.m. Most everything is due on a Sunday. I do want to warn you that when I say 11:55 p.m. deadline, that's exactly what I mean. That quiz or assignment or whatever you're working on will cut off at 11:55 p.m. So if you have, a certain amount of time, if you have 30 minutes to do a quiz, let's say, and you click into the quiz at 11:50 p.m., you don't have 30 minutes to do the quiz. You have 5 minutes to do the quiz. It will cut off and score it exactly how you have done it in the 5 minutes that you've done it. So make sure that you are not waiting to the last minute to do these assignments and these quizzes. If you put everything in your phone, if you put everything to remind you ahead of time, give yourself new dates and say, okay, if it's due on Sunday, I'm going to have it done by Friday. Then that means that you don't have to stress over the weekend. And, if you can work ahead, that's even better. You can do things ahead of time, but you can't make stuff up because every single thing is available to you from the beginning of the semester. I can't do makeups. So you need to make sure that you really spend the time managing your time wisely for this course. You can't come to me at the end of the semester and say, hey, I haven't done anything. I thought I had the whole semester. Well, I'm telling you right now, you don't. I'm telling you, even though this is an online class, it's relatively self-paced. There are deadlines to keep you on track. That way you don't get to the end of the semester and you have an entire semester's work to do in 3 days, because that's impossible to do. Because you can't make up the work, if you're traveling, whether you're an athlete, whether you're going on vacation, maybe you're going to study abroad, whatever it might be, I would suggest you do the work prior to you going. You don't know what kind of access you're going to have to Wi-Fi. You don't know if something might happen where you don't have access to a computer or a laptop, maybe even your phone. You have no idea. So if you're going to travel, especially over spring break, my best advice to you is to do everything that you need to do prior to leaving. So if you have something that's cutting close to either during spring break or right after spring break, I have something due right, it's a bonus chapter right at the end of spring break, do that before you leave. Make sure you take a look at those dates and you don't test it, because chances are if it can happen, if it can go wrong, it will. And I've had plenty of students who traveled and they said, oh, well, I had a whatever game and I went to stay in the hotel and we had no Wi-Fi. I can't help you at that point, because you know that everything is available to you ahead of time. So make sure you take the initiative and do your work ahead of schedule. Make sure you're looking ahead. Always look a week ahead to see, what do I have to do? And do I need to start something now to have it due by the end of next week? For this class, you're going to see that there's 6 activities, there's 8 quizzes, there's a midterm, there's a final, there's a lot of little things here and there, as well as extra credit. Everything is going to add up to 100. So if you look at the breakdown on the syllabus, everything's going to add up to 100, and any extra credit will be on top of that. I try to make it as easy as possible, and you can see how many points you need by the end of the semester based on how many points you have, and it's all going to equal to 100. A couple of important things to keep in mind at the beginning of this course is you're going to have some, you're going to have some activities, you're going to have some things that you need to do. Not every single chapter has an activity. Not every single chapter is going to have a quiz. Keep that in mind. As you're going through it, some of the activities are going to be you type in and you respond to a series of questions. You need to answer all the questions. If I say be specific, give examples, and you don't give examples, you're not going to get credit for that question or for the answer that you provide. Some of the activities are forums. I try not to do too many of those because students tend to get a little tired of them. I only do a few of forums where you're actually engaging with others, but I do like them in an online course because we're not face-to-face. You don't have other students around you in this class, so I like to have this communication with everybody. So keep in mind when you're doing forums, there is a good and bad way to do a post. I've got tips and guidelines on how I'm grading your posts, and I will give you a 0 if you don't add anything. I mean, I'll give you a 0 if you don't answer the question. So make sure you're actually reading through and trying to make the most of it. Another thing is that you must remember that there are other people in the class, and that if you're responding to another student, to be kind, to be professional. You're not anonymous, and none of the forums on here are going to be anonymous. You're going to see some of these students probably in other classes. They will remember if you're being a jerk, okay? If you're being hostile, if you're being mean, if you're attacking somebody, it doesn't matter what another person's opinion is. Think about the ideas. Talk about the ideas and respond to that. Don't talk down to people or say mean things. If you're creating a hostile environment, I can actually report you for that. And send you to honor court. So please don't make me do that. I will be monitoring posts, but I'm not going to respond to every single one. I don't want to monopolize the conversation. I just like to see that there's some conversation happening. But take a look at that rubric and those guidelines at the beginning of Moodle, and you'll see how to properly engage in an online discussion. I mean, we're talking about having a conversation, not just, I got to post this to get a grade, Do those forum posts early on. So do them at the beginning of the week to give people the chance to do posts and reply, and then have a conversation and engage. The whole point is to have a conversation, not to just put, oh, that's a great point. That adds nothing to the conversation. One thing that's extremely important that if you don't do, you'll actually get removed from the class, is something called a syllabus quiz. You must do a syllabus quiz by the deadline, which is the 19th. All you need to do is read the syllabus. Pull it up. You have it with you when you're doing the quiz. It's a 10-question quiz. You need to make 100% on it. If you don't make 100% or if you don't do it by the deadline, you will get removed from the class, and I will have you administratively withdrawn. So I'll go to the registrar and say, hey, this person is not doing what they're supposed to, and they will remove you from the class. Now, the downside, well, one thing, the class is full. So if you get removed and somebody else comes in, they've taken your spot. So that means that you can't get back in. 2, often for students, this means a financial aid issue. So if that drops you down to less than full time, or if you need the class for graduation or whatever, that can be a major issue. So make sure you're doing that make sure you're doing that syllabus quiz, that you're making 100 on it. You can keep answering questions. If you get it wrong, you're like, oops, that's not right. Go back to the syllabus and then get the question right. That's fine. You just need to make sure that you actually do that. And that's for me, because I don't see you face to face. I want to make sure that you understand the concepts in the syllabus and what's expected of you, and make sure that you understand what plagiarism is, and make sure you understand what's expected of you in the class. So that way at the end of the semester, you can't say, well, I didn't know. I can say, no, you did it. It's on the syllabus quiz. and you at least read it enough to get it on that. So make sure you do that or you'll be removed from the class, and I don't want to have to do that. Another mandatory thing is that you need to make sure that you do a welcome forum post. So at the very top of the page, you'll see a forum set up. And I just want you to introduce yourself. I want to know who you are. I want to know if you're on campus and what your interests are, something interesting about yourself, just to kind of get to know my students. I really, want to be engaged. I think you'll find that this online class is a lot more engaging than maybe other online classes because I like to keep track with my students. But also, I think it's a fun way to learn. And for some people, they really, really like it. So hopefully you like this. If you have any disabilities, if you need accommodations, you need extra time on the quizzes, I need to know immediately, like today, yesterday. I need a form. The disability office can contact me to get a head start on those accommodations, but if you don't have a form, I can't help you. I can't accommodate you. And because we're so fast paced and we move the first week we're gone, we're doing it. I want to be able to accommodate you and give you extra time or whatever you need on those assignments and tests. So I can't do that unless you provide that information to me. So make sure if you need accommodations, you do that quickly. When you go onto Moodle, you're going to see one of the first things that you see is the pre-assessment. This is not for a grade, it's for assessment purposes. This is something that I give first day of class. It's 10 questions. What do you know about psychology? It's multiple choice. Please don't look at any of the material. Don't ask each other. Don't Google it. Just what do you know about psychology? The point is that I'm going to do it at the beginning of the semester. I'm going to give you this assessment. And at the end of the semester, I'm going to give you the same assessment. I want to see, did you learn anything? Okay. So it's not for a grade. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to help you. I just want to see what you know. And if you can go ahead and do that, pretty much one of the first things that you do, look at the syllabus, watch the video, do the pre-assessment. Then you could do the syllabus quiz. It's a good order of doing things. Another really important thing to consider is plagiarism. So don't copy from each other. Don't copy from the internet. Don't copy from the book. Use your own words for everything. If you copy if you're caught cheating, if you're copying stuff, if you're caught cheating with other students, if you're helping each other on the quizzes, if you're taking information from other semesters, using information from other classes of your own, all of this constitutes cheating. And if you're caught doing this, the downside is that I'm pretty serious about it. Usually I give a 0 on the assignment, a lot of times an F in the course. It's an automatic failure. Another thing is that I will send you to honor court. And so their decision is completely independent of mine. So I will give you the 0 and the F. Then they decide at that point, if it's egregious enough, if it's a bad enough offense, or if you have another offense, or if you've done it in another class, they can kick you out of the college. If they can choose to have you do community service work, and it's just kind of a blemish on your record. So I find that most students spend more time trying to get around the system and try to cheat their way through it and spend more effort and energy on that than actually just doing the class. This isn't a hard class. It's fast paced. Yes, we do go through it very quickly, but it's not anything that's rocket science. If you read it and think about it, a lot of it's applicable to your life. I'm hoping that you'll be able to get some information out of here that you can use for the rest of your life. And what you put into it is what you get out of it. Okay. So if you find that, this is something that's really of interest to you, we have lots of classes that are even more specific to the material. If you decide this is the last psychology class you ever take, that's fine. But the point is that if you really read the material and if you really try to digest it and not just memorize it, but actually try to apply it to points in your life, I think you'll find it'll make your life better. It'll make your life easier, and it'll make you understand people more. And I think that's a really, really neat aspect to this class and a neat aspect to psychology. So I'm hoping you're not just, trying to get by. You can certainly get by and pass the class with a little effort. But if you put in some work and actually read the stuff and try to get more out of it, then it'll make your life better. And I think that's what, education should all be about, is just learning and, making your life better. Um, the last final thing I want to talk about is something that might be a little odd to you is this idea of bonus chapters. I have one bonus chapter during the spring break and then one after you finish your final exam, which your final exam is not cumulative, by the way. It is only over 4 chapters, and all of that's on the syllabus if you take a look at that. One thing to keep in mind is that because we're ending earlier in the semester, we're not ending the last week of class. I want to provide material for people who are interested in things like disorders. That tends to be a very exciting thing about psychology and what interests a lot of people. So I give bonus material. It's completely up to you if you want to read it. It's completely up to you if you want to look through it. The very last chapter for psych disorders is completely optional, and this doesn't have a quiz or an activity or anything, but I do provide you with videos and with material if you're interested. And again, this is one of those things where, you know, if you want to know more, and if you want to learn what psychology is about, or at least this aspect of psychology, then that's for you to take in. So if you have any questions, I highly suggest that you email me or come by and see me during office hours. If anything happens or changes that you need to know, I will let you guys know. Just make sure you're checking Moodle and your email regularly. Here's to a great semester. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. I think that you'll find that the material is fun to learn, hopefully. And if you're struggling at any point, please come and see me and please email me. I'm here to help you. I'll do the best that I can. I can't help you as well at the very end of the semester when everything is in and done. But if you're struggling along the way, I'm happy to do what I can to help you. So hope you have a wonderful semester, and let me know if you need anything.